Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Jared Brandon wound pickups.
Hey everybody, it's me, Todd Novak. Welcome to the Guitar Knobs podcast. Thrilled to death that you are listening to us, with us, by us, for us. For you.
That's right.
It's all for you, really.
It is.
And us too. Mostly us, but a lot for you. Anyways, we're super excited because we've got a guest on that is like, it's like a full house. It's like a royal flush of
He's a triple
of
threat.
stuff. He's a quintuple threat. Anyways, guest, who are you?
Oh, Andy Babiuk.
Andy Babiuk to list out all the things that you are of is going to be rather extensive, but let me try, shall I? Shall we?
Go right ahead, my friend.
Actually, Tony, you do it. You know him best.
All right. So, let's start with Andy Babiuk's Fab Gear, a great boutique. Should we call it boutique store, guitar store?
Yeah, retail boutique guitar shop.
Okay.
In upstate New York.
That's number one.
I want to go.
That's
Way
number
cool
one.
Stuff.
Let's go, Tony.
Not only
Tony,
that,
this is an hour show. You got to speed it up, buddy.
Okay, give me time. He's also a well-renowned performer.
Yes.
Coming from acts such as the Chesterfield Kings and most recently the Empty Hearts.
That's correct. A super group, if you will.
Super group.
Number 3.
Well, this is possibly nearest and dearest to my heart. He is the author of 3 of my favorite books on guitars. First off, Beatles Gear. Second, the Paul Bigsby story. And thirdly, the Rolling Stones Gear.
Oh, yeah.
And hopefully, I sent you an email a long time ago when I first got, I think it was the Beatles book, maybe the Bigsby book. I said, hey, when are you going to do a Who Gear book?
Oh, boy.
That would be the best.
Yeah. So, Andy, did we leave any major things out that people can go like, oh, wow, okay, yeah, this guy's credible?
I guess that's good for starters. I've done a couple other wacky things in my day, but that's good for starters.
We'll take
Excellent.
it. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a great show. Just to give you an example of these books that Tony was just referencing, the Rolling Stones book alone, which is sitting on top of this pile, probably weighs as much as Jared's head.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. I don't know if you've seen Jared, but that is a mighty heavy head.
That's a big head.
It's a big one.
It's an 8-inch head. I got to buy 8-inch hats. I'm not.
That's my pants.
Don't laugh at me. That's really the truth.
Your haircut needs a belt.
Right.
Anyways, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
So anyways, I can't. How many pages is this, Tony?
1 million pages.
1 million pages. It's ridiculous. It is so impressive, and I'm so excited to actually just dig into these. But for now, we're going to start off with our announcements really quick. We need to thank Rode Mics for providing the Rodecaster Pro, this amazing little machine in front of us, capturing all of our voices, and the Procaster mics with articulating arms. Thank you so much to Rode Mics for providing these for the Guitar Knobs podcast. Much obliged, matey. Mate, they're not pirates. They're just Aussies.
They're mates, not mateys.
I guess that would be confusing or maybe not confusing if you were an Aussie pirate. Yeah, I guess.
I guess you could be a matey mate.
And then also, we just want to give a quick shout out. We got our show rolling on YouTube. It is all audio, folks. So if you're just listening along, if you're restringing your guitar and you don't have a podcast thing hanging around, but you got your big giant TV and you want to choose the YouTube and put us on, we would greatly appreciate it. And also, Big Jared's got a new show on there too.
That's right. It is called Rewind Time with Brandon Wound Pickups. What I do is it's a very short show. It's not drawn out. I just show you the before and after of pickups that I work on.
Yep. Short and sweet, just like Jared.
That's right.
All right. We're going to get on to what's going on in our music worlds this week. And we're going to start off with Tony, and then we're going to kick it over to Andy, and he's going to tell us what's up in his music world. So, Tony, give us a very, very brief rundown. As best you can.
Oh, that's very difficult.
I know.
Me. So, I finished a very cool project this week. I've done a lot of work for Joe Bonamassa, and he always sends me the goofiest things to try to replicate. In this case, it was a 1963 SJ200 that had...
What is that?
It's a jumbo-bodied Gibson.
Okay. Is it like the jumbo body style?
It's the big one.
Or is it a dreadnought?
No, it's bigger than a dreadnought.
So it's shaped like a jumbo.
It's shaped like a jumbo.
I'm just clarifying for those who are like, what the hell is that?
So most SJ200s have it's a large pick guard that has engraving on it that has flowers and vines and things like that. Well, this one actually had the same design, but on an armrest. On the very top end there. And his armrest that on this particular instrument was disintegrated, although there was a portion of it that I was able to duplicate and use as a pattern. So this was
these are those hard armrests. They're like plastic, almost like a violin thing.
Yeah, but it's not suspended, but it's attached to the top of the guitar.
Yeah.
But it's just there to cover up wear and tear and what have you.
It's not made of corduroy.
No, it is not corduroy. So this one, I'd always wanted to try, and I get requests for SJ200s and Epiphone Excelentes and all these other ones that have these goofy hand carved and then repainted guards. And that's literally how Gibson and Epiphone and many of the others, they had a person sitting there with a chisel, carving the design into the plastic and then filling that carved in area with paint and then sticking it on the guitar.
Right.
It's celluloid. And of course,
celluloid gases.
50, 60 years later, guess what? It disintegrates.
It destroys everything in the guitar.
So Joe got a hold of me. He said, "Hey, I've got this, and I've got to get the new thing, and I'm going to have."
Does he have his glasses on when he's talking to you?
No. Usually when we talk, it's without glasses.
Okay.
Yes, but he wears a hoodie.
Okay.
At all times.
Gotcha.
He's a fez.
We should send him a fez. But his tech guy, whatever, sent a what was left of the original piece, and we mapped out what size it needed to be. I had a friend of mine with a CNC machine take the drawings that I made and then carve into raw plastic, and then I was able to polish it out, fill in the paint. I just finished it up. It came out great. Sent photos out. Joe's happy, and I'm happy, and
fantastic.
So that was it. It's one of those projects where it was a very good learning experience because I didn't know if I could do things like that. It's like when I first started doing bound guards. This was just something I hadn't done, and you learn. I guess you teach yourself how to do it.
Hey, Andy, tell us what's going on in your music world in 5 words. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead and tell us what's up.
Well, I got a lot of guitars in my own personal collection. Obviously, my shop, we've got tons and tons of product in there that we sell. But, in my personal collection, I've got, 250. I don't even know how many I have. It's a lot. My son keeps on telling me I got to catalog it, but I never get around to it. Anyhow, once in a while I go mining, and I look for things that I haven't seen for like 10 years or so. So I pull out guitars that I go, oh fuck, I forgot I had this. And then obviously the strings are bad on it and I got to set it up and stuff. And so I've been doing that lately just because of the COVID thing and not doing a lot of other stuff. So that's been kind of fun. It's like going shopping in your own closet. I go shopping in my guitar collection, find out that, wow, I forgot I had this. It's always fun.
Nice. Very cool. Is there one in particular that you pull out and you're like, hey, what's this?
I recently just found a guitar that I forgot I had. I got a white Les Paul. It's from the 80s. It was right when they moved the factory, and it was called White Pearlescent and had like a gold. I think it's like they didn't clean the tubes. They were probably doing gold tops, and they didn't clean the tubes, and they sprayed white, and it turned. You know how they'd give it another name just because they basically screwed up the paint. Yeah.
Hey Jimmy, I messed this one up. No, you didn't. It's pearlescent.
At the time, it was you couldn't get a white penguin, And I was like, oh man, if I got this and I put a gold Bigsby on it, it'll look close to a white penguin. Well, it's nothing like a white penguin, but at the time you couldn't get a Gretsch white penguin. And, an old one would be absolutely absurdly priced back then. Even back then they were. So that was the closest thing that I had. Thing weighs a ton. It's got to be like 13 pounds or something. It's like, but
I'll loan you my kickstand.
No, yeah, really. And I had to, the neck's beautiful on it. It's got great, nice small frets on it. It's actually a really beautiful guitar, but I mean, the strings were horrible on it. I probably haven't seen the guitar in 10 years, easy. So, I mean, that's always fun when you find something that you own that you forgot you own, and it's kind of cool. And I got a lot of stuff like that. So I've been one at a time going through, hey, what's in this case? What's this? Oh, wow. It's always fun.
Yeah.
So I guess being that I can't go out and tour and play, I mean, that's about the next best thing I can have other than selling guitars, right?
That does sound like fun. Hopefully I get to have some kind of fun like that at some point in my life. Jared, how about yourself, buddy?
So I had a very nice, long, dull, boring, thing of the week. And instead, I talked to my buddy on the phone today. I haven't talked to him in a long time. And he plays guitar. And he's like, hey, I got this Martin D10. And it's got big giant strings on it. That's what it came with. And it sounded really good. But the giant strings the heavy gauge strings were just too much for my fingers. So I got light string gauge and now it sounds too trebly. And it's like, I don't know what to do. What would you do? And I said, I don't know. You should probably get a set of string, like just go up one gauge and, maybe you have to compromise.
Or tell him to get a D35 or D45.
No, so was that the right thing to tell him, guys, or what? I mean, what do you think, Tony?
Well, I mean, yeah, some guitars are meant to be strung heavy, and you can always lighten the gauge down. And it depends on what
the type of strings too.
Yeah, I mean, if he's using like a phosphorus bronze string, it's going to sound super bright. He might be better with a 80-20, or when we talked to Kurt Mangan,
get some
about
Manels.
the Manel
Man,
strings.
those things are so good sounding.
Those tend to be a little bit, I guess, on the darker side.
Yeah, I'm going to tell him to go get some Manels.
There you go.
There's the answer.
And he can save 15% off right now at Kurt Mangan using the Guitar Knobs discount.
That's right.
People,
Don't
go
forget
do
that
it
one.
on electric and acoustic strings. Just saying.
How about you, Todd?
Well, I did a little bit. I did another little cool demo. I kind of found a little corner of the guitar world to hide in. Or a little. I don't hide very much, but I've been doing these 1 minute wonders. That I call them, just because I try to keep it to 1 minute, and I'm not a virtuoso, so I just go like, hey, this is the sound that I like from this pedal. And so I called it 1 minute wonder. And what was interesting is
that your wife's nickname for you?
I mean, I'm setting myself up for this. I also think it's kind of funny that, we're called the Guitar Knobs, and that is the 1 minute wonder. So, the jokes abound, everybody. But what I found to be interesting is, as I was, I had it mic'd up. I had my Supro Blackmagic mic'd up with the little Shure. And as I was positioning it, boy, oh boy, we've talked about this on the show before, but my mic positioning was just making a huge difference. And to me, that was kind of, I think that was really eye-opening, because it's one thing miking it live. I think there's so many other things going on. You don't exactly get a pure sound out of that. But when you are in your basement and you mic it up and it's going straight in your headphones, you're like, wow, I moved it a half an inch and that sounds like a completely different signal altogether. So that was really cool to check that out. And so that's what I was doing. Just going like, oh, what if I move it here? What if I point it this way? What if I put it, off center? What if I, so
you're well on your way to becoming a studio wizard.
Yeah, right.
Look out, John Fendel.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so that was kind of fun. Just kind of tooling around with that. And somehow I managed to make the simple things so much more complicated. Anyways.
Bravo.
Andy, we are going to jump into something real quick.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 4 on the floor.
Hey, Jared.
Yo.
You know, I was looking at your pedal board the other day,
That's
and
right.
I was just admiring it. It is so neat and tidy and reliable. What's your secret?
I use Tour Gear.
Tour Gear Designs?
Yeah, actually, they're
Patch cables?
the best patch cables you could possibly get.
Sorry, I dropped the cue card.
They're small. They fit in every pedal in any position of the pedal, and you can have other pedals real close together and sandwich them in. But I can't do that because I wear size 14 shoe. But however, seriously,
Well, you must have spent a fortune on that.
I didn't. They're under $6. They start in under $6. They're
$532 to be exactly.
Yep,
I'm 32.
and there's a discount too.
That's correct, Amundo. You can head over to tourgeardesigns.com/discounts/the guitar knobs, and you're going to save 10% on your entire order.
10%.
And you're not going to get one, you're going to get several because they are fantastic. And you can get them in 3-packs, which is actually that's really smart to do. So you should be doing that.
Get a variety.
Get a variety. They're all hand tested, and we could not recommend them anymore.
They sign the little thing on there.
They sign the little thing on there, just like little Jared says.
Take it from Jared.
All right, so tourgeardesigns.com/discounts/the guitar knobs, and your pedal board's going to be rocking. All right, we are going to check in with Andy Babiuk, and we're going to find out his 4 on the floor.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm the kind of guy that give me a really good amp and a real good guitar and a guitar cable, and I'm fine. But that's if you're just playing in your house. If you're going to actually play live, you're going to need something. If you want to take a lead or do something fancy, you need something that has a little boost. There's a lot of great pedals out there that give you a little boost. You got to have that. And then the other favorite thing that I like to have is a fuzz. You got to have a really good, gnarly fuzz, not a distortion pedal, a fuzz.
Okay.
And then my third weapon is a great tremolo box, because you never know if you're doing a fly-in gig and you get an amp that doesn't have the right kind of tremolo. You got to have the right kind of tremolo for me.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, you got to have a tuner on that rig, because of course you go out of tune unless you got stellar guitar techs.
Yeah.
You got to touch it up a little bit. So there's your 4 on the floor.
What kind?
Yeah. Do you have favorites of each of those?
I got like every vintage pedal, and then I've got like a multitude of all kinds of like new stuff and things that have been around for a long time. So I'm yet to find the ultimate fuzz. To me, the best sounding fuzz is Satisfaction. There's nobody makes a pedal that sounds like that riff, and it's the most known riff there is. It was the riff that started all, effects pedal, the whole industry, but nobody does that sound. Nobody does that in a pedal. Absolutely not. If they did, I'd own it and I'd be bragging about it, but nobody does it definitively.
Now, I always thought wasn't that a result of overloading
tape deck?
A tape deck?
Absolutely not.
No.
You'll have to read Rolling Stones Gear. It tells you all about it.
All right.
How arrogant was that?
What?
I like it.
And is there now the actual recording of it? But was the genesis of the tune recorded from one of those portable recorders? That's what I
Absolutely not.
Okay.
It's a Maestro fuzz. And they had recorded Satisfaction a week before at Chess Studios with an acoustic guitar and harmonica, actually, an electric guitar.
Uh-huh.
And it didn't have any fuzz in it whatsoever.
Right.
The song, the concept of the fuzz, the riff itself was supposed to be a horn section. That's how they envisioned it. That's what Keith was thinking.
Like
Ian,
a sax? Sounds kind of like a sax, I imagine.
Well, yeah, but like a Motown kind of, because they had just been in, that's what they were after. And then they went to LA, and there are RCA studios with Dave Hassinger. And he told me that, they were in there and they recut the song again. And This time, Ian Stewart, their road guy, who used to be the keyboard player, he was one of the original Rolling Stones. They threw him out because he didn't look cool. But he stayed with the band as their road manager and road guy. Anyhow, he went out and bought a fuzz, and they kind of didn't really know what to do with it. And so Keith started messing around with it, and they did it. You know, they put the riff in using that. He used a Firebird 7 through a Gibson Titan amplifier, actually. And that's the sound you hear.
Wow.
And Hassinger told me the reason why it sounded like that, the fuzz itself was sitting on top of everything, and they couldn't really get it to sound right. And so he had to EQ the snot out of it on the board to get it to fit in the mix.
Interesting.
So that's why everybody makes these fuzzes, and they'll make, a Maestro, fuzz again and everything. But it's not that. It's the tone that was generated. There's a slight reverb on it too, which gives it a definitive sound too.
Very curious. Now, if you want to learn more about that,
go to page 167.
167
in the Rolling Stones.
And I got a picture in the book. I got a picture of him cutting it with the fuzz on the floor and the box that the fuzz came in underneath his chair. That's how much of a geek I am.
That's fantastic. That is a very cool picture too. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be whetting your appetite for this stuff here for sure. Tony, count the pages in that while we're talking.
Just go to the last page.
Thanks, Jared.
The last page is number 672.
Let me give you a tip. Go to the last page.
Wow, I was just going to sit here and start counting. Thanks, Jared.
It's what I'm here for.
Good thing you're here.
All right, so you got the fuzz. How about in terms of the overdrives? Is there anything in particular that?
What? I'm not so much a big fan of an overdrive. It's just something that gives it a boost.
Okay.
Yeah. I even found just a straight EQ pedal. You get an EQ pedal.
Yeah.
Again, if you get a great guitar tone on an amp, and you just want to it's as if you would walk up to your amp and just turn it up 2 notches volume wise. Same tone. You get a good tone. It's, wow, this sounds great. I just want it a little louder to take a lead.
Yeah.
If you need it to be real gnarly, then you pop the fuzz on and, do the Hendrix thing.
Yeah. Todd and I have been very partial to the EP booster.
Yeah.
There's a ton of good. Here's the thing with pedals. I remember years ago, there was only like a handful of companies that built them. And then, I think there was like that Prescription Electronics guy and a couple other guys that started making like boutique, quote unquote, pedals. This is like 20 years ago and stuff. And it was like really weird. Like this guy would make pedals. Now it's like any guy who knows how to solder or something, he's making a pedal. He's got a pedal company. And there's so many variations. You change one little tiny thing and it's a different tone. So it's really great, but you could really get lost. I know when I go to the NAMM show and you go down that aisle of all those pedals, it's literally like mind blowing. I want to stop and try every single one, but it's physically exhausting. Ear fatigue, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I have a question for you. I know that the sound that you're talking about, we reference this all the time. The idea of there is nothing that sounds like a guitar through a gassed amp, right?
Oh yeah, that's the best.
But what happens, you gig all the time. So when you are in a place that doesn't allow you to do that, but you still need that tone, are you relying on an overdrive at that point, or how do you navigate that?
Get a Knox.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a ton of good pedals that do that, give you a little bit of edge without, sounding like, you're underwater with so much distortion you can't even hear the notes that you're playing.
Right.
It's tough. I mean, I think that's why the popularity of low wattage amps is so big right now, because most places where guys are playing are smaller venues, and you really can't turn it up. You're playing in a corner bar, and you bring in a 100-watt Marshall half stack. You're not going to get paid that night because the bartender couldn't hear any of the orders.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. Well, and that happens many times when I'm gigging. They've got these guys rolling there with the their JCM, and the first thing a guy says is keep he just the thumb down, keep going down, and then it doesn't even sound like a Marshall anymore.
No.
Well, yeah, then it just, well,
Yeah. So okay, so tremolo. I love that you mentioned a tremolo. I really enjoy a good tremolo. What pound for pound? What do you think? What is the best tremolo sound?
See, I'm one of those geeks that I don't just like, a sine curve tremolo. I like a square wave.
Yeah,
where it sounds like a saw,
like a helicopter. I love that.
I'll tell you what. One of my favorite sounds in the world is the sound of a Vox Super Beetle with the tremolo and the fuzz on. Now, a Vox Super Beetle, an original 66 Super Beetle, the only way you could turn the fuzz on is if you have the pedal for the amp. There's no knob on there that tells you there's a fuzz or anything. So you turn that on, and then you turn on the tremolo, and you put it on the intensity on full. It sounds like a saw. And then the reverb sounds like, it's like an Ampeg reverb, like an old Ampeg Rocket reverb. It's not a Gemini. It sounds like you're in outer space. It's the sound of the electric prunes. It's the best sound ever. So I always look for a tremolo pedal that has that. And if it has that, it always has all the other, Fender-ish kind of sounds that you can get out of it too.
Sure. I'm with you on the square wave, man. I have got a song that like the whole thing just starts out with that. It just sounds like I just said goose the depth, goose the wave, and also I need a volume on it too. And it just sounds awesome.
There's that cool thing you get to do too when you do like a Bo Diddley beat, and you time it in such a way so the tremolo is going with your rhythm.
Yeah.
And then it creates, but it doesn't work on a sine curve. It only works on a square wave. And it sounds like things are cutting out, but they're not. And it's a beautiful thing if you could time it right.
Yeah. How Soon Is Now from the Smiths. Perfect.
Well, yeah, he did a great job with it too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, boy, we could talk about this all day long. Good thing we're gonna.
Tuner. Don't forget the tuner.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You got to. What's your go-to tuner?
I've had them all. Right now, I tend to go back to the Korg stuff, to be honest with you. I mean, they're one of the original companies that, I remember way back when getting one of those handheld, because you could only get like a Kahn strobe tuner, or a Peterson was like a novel thing because you didn't have to like fine tune it and stuff. And then when you had these like small portable things, these $89, you got a Korg. I was like, oh my God, you could fit it in a guitar case. Well, man, this is like something else. You could be backstage and actually make sure you're in tune before you go on stage.
Yeah.
Those are really cool, and then a million other companies made them, but I tend to keep on going back to them because as a company, they make all these elaborate keyboards and all kinds of other stuff. So they always seem to be very on top of it. Be it like one of those clip-on headstock things, which are very convenient if you just surround the house and playing acoustically. Yeah. But they're very accurate and they're fast too. It's the microprocessors inside there. Mm-hmm. They're really on top of that. So I keep on going back to those for some reason.
Well, they do the job when you need them to.
What do they call it? Basic black or something black or whatever?
None more black.
None more black.
Pitch black. It sucks because you can never see it. Oh yeah,
the Korg pitch black. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you go looking for it on stage, you can never find it.
All right. Well, we need to do a quick outro here and give thanks to johnfiddle.com. Go there.
Yeah. That's
and also the guy behind that, John Fiddle, he's a recording engineer, a mastering engineer, and all around tone guru. I
think he knows the difference between a sine wave and a square wave.
I think he might. John's got a fantastic ear and wants to make sure that you get the sound that you want, which is really important when you're actually recording. He'll help you find it. Go to johnfintel.com, JONFINTEL, and he's at Relay Recording, as are we. That's where we're recording out of. So, sort of. Albums and this. So, anyways,
same roof.
Yep. So, let's see here. We're going to get on to Andy's world of guitar stuff here. I I don't know where to start. I think I'm going to have to start with Tony, because Tony is the one who said, "Hey, I really think we should have Andy on." And as soon as I started to learn, a little bit more about you, I was like, "Absolutely, let's do this." So,
well, let's start with the music side. These two youngsters, these two Utes here, are probably too young to remember the Chesterfield Kings.
What are you talking about?
Do you are you old enough?
I'm 40,
How old do you think I am?
42.
I thought you were 30, 35, right?
I'm 40.
Seriously?
No.
I'm 42.
Yeah, you're too young.
Yeah.
So, but I remember as I was a college student. In
I'm
the
old enough to be a
1980s.
massive fan of the guitar player in his new band. Massive fan.
Okay.
Yes.
And I was from up in northeastern Ohio, Youngstown, and
Yep.
we would always have a chance to catch the Chesterfield Kings every once in a while, either in Cleveland or Pittsburgh. And so it was at a time, that band in particular was kind of, I guess, would you say it was Stonesy, Yardsbirdsy?
Yeah, well, we started in the late 70s, and at the time, the genre of music, what the press was calling a quote unquote new wave or punk. And, we were a bunch of young kids. The 60s had just ended, not even 8 years prior. So it was like 78 or so. And we were like, no, man, we're a 60s band. And it was kind of weird because people didn't know what the heck to make of us, because, they were trying to say, "Oh, you're a new wave band." Well, nah, we're not a new wave band. We were like really arrogant little, crap heads, and trying to be so cooler than, anything. And I think our third gig we ever played was in New York City at the Peppermint Lounge. And it's really interesting because at that show, David Frick and Kurt Loder were there.
Oh,
so
wow.
David was a writer at the time for a New York City magazine that was kind of like the Village Voice, but it was a music magazine called the New York Rocker. And they did a big feature story on us, and we literally exploded overnight. We had no clue what we were doing, but in that article, he called us a garage band, and it kind of stuck. And then now a garage band, it's they named software programs, but we were and they would call us the kings of the garage, because then all these bands were emulating what we were doing. And we were very fortunate to do an album. And at the time, college radio, major record companies wouldn't service college radio. They wouldn't, Warner Brothers or, Columbia Records wouldn't send free records to college radio. They just figured it wasn't worth it. So, what happened was the record company we were on, some independent label, they sent it to every college station throughout the country, and they all started playing it. Next thing you know, we're touring, we're 20-year-old kids, and we're touring all over the United States and stuff. It was literally overnight. It was kind of crazy. So it was kind of fun. We're trying to, buying all kinds of old Rickenbackers and Hofners and Vox amps and stuff, and trying to emulate that. And it was crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think there was a subgroup of the, new wave or punk or whatever you want to call it that was almost sort of emulating the sound of the 60s, some of it psychedelia, some of it poppy, Brit pop, whatever. And then there were, there was more hardcore and things like that. So it's, all these bands got kind of clumped into the term punk or garage.
Anything that sounded
like
different was kind of lobbed into that.
Yes. Oh, you're a new wave band, aren't you?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, one thing that's curious about the Chesterfield Kings is that that's maybe the longest roster I may have seen, as far as who's been in and out of that, which kind of makes it kind of cool and unique.
Well, you have a band for 30 something years. I think Kim Simmons from Savoy Brown has the record. Kim's a dear friend of mine, great guitar player, legend, Savoy Brown, great band, started in 1966, but they're still around now. He's had I think hundreds of hundreds of different, band members. Mm. No, but you know how it is. I mean, you're young kids, people move on, we've had guys die, all kinds of stuff, I mean, it's just an evolution of a band.
Sure.
And when you're kind of an underground cult band, and, you're only making so much money, it's not like anybody's making this huge living off this band and stuff. So, people come and go and whatever, but they lose interest or whatever. But, I kept it going, and then I got bored.
Well, and what you do when you get bored is you hook up with other amazing players who are also bored. So you got a new band, the Empty Hearts, and it's quite a roster here. So you want to introduce your band here?
Yeah, well, it's Elliot Easton from the Cars is our guitarist, lead guitarist. Wally Palmer from the Romantics is the lead singer, harp player, and rhythm player. And then Clem Burke from Blondie is our drummer, and I play bass in the band. And it really formed from one of those things where, we used to play like the Chesterfield Kings. We played, a crap load of shows with the Romantics and Blondie, and, and Blondie played with the Cars, and the Cars played with Romantics. And I mean, it was, you tour together, you hang out backstage, you find certain people that you just become friendly with because they're cool guys and they like similar kind of music. And inevitably you're having drinks and, hey man, we should do something someday. And then you never do. And then time goes on and you run into them and go, yeah, if you ever want to do anything, man, call me up. And we all stayed friends socially, like call each other and talk about like the Three Stooges and goof, monster movies and wacky stuff,
Sure.
guitars. And then nothing ever happened. So like I said, with the Chesterfield Kings, I was just getting bored. And I remember talking to Joey Ramone. We were getting drunk in New York City one time. And he told me, he goes, I'm quitting the Ramones. I go, you can't quit the Ramones. You're Joey Ramone. And he goes, no, man, I'm sick of it. Think of it from my viewpoint. He goes, if we do anything other than the Ramones style of music, people will hate us. And we put out another album and it sounds like the last album, and we go to the same places all over the world and we play in front of the same people. And it never gets any better. And then this band comes out of nowhere, rips us off 100%. And just because they're young kids, they're number one on the charts. And it was like when Green Day just came out and their album went like to number one.
Yeah.
They were, because it was a total Ramones ripoff. And he was just so bummed out. I'm going, I can't believe it. You're Joey Ramone. You can't quit the Ramones. And then I realized that years later, I go, yeah, I mean, you do the same thing all the time. You put out a new album, you do a tour, you go to the same places, same people see you. It's all good, but it never elevates. So I decided to just move on. And I literally, Wally Palmer was on tour with Ringo. He was in the All-Star Band. Ringo's All-Star Band, and I think they were going to South America or something. And he called me up, and he said, "Hey man, we're going to South America. A great big shot. Go fly around on Ringo's private jet. I said, have a great time. We're pals, and so and then it just like dawned on me. I think I was driving in my car. I go, hey man, remember when you were a kid and you got like Stones records and Beatles records, and it made you want to go out and buy a guitar and like play and start a band? He goes, yeah. I go, what if we started a band with that idea? I mean, we can't turn back the clock and be young again, but mentally we could go there and just get in a room with a bunch of guys like us and just like write songs and have fun. He goes, yeah, well, who are you thinking? And I go, well, Clem Burke had played in the Romantics when Blondie wasn't playing for a while. And Clem's a good friend of mine. And I said, well, get Clem Burke on drums. He's one of the best drummers in the world. Yeah. And who else? I go, Elliot Easton from the Cars, man. He's like, it's one of us. He's a knucklehead. He likes all this.
I'm giddy listening to this like crazy, man. This is fantastic.
I go, he likes all the same stupid stuff that we like, and I go, yeah. And he goes, but we all live in different cities. I mean, those guys are out in LA. I'm in Detroit. You're in New York. How are we going to do? I go, look, just think about it. So about a month later, he called me back. He got off the tour. They finished a tour in South America. And he called me up and he says, the tour was great. And I go, okay, big shot. Flying around with Ringo and stuff. We bust on each other all the time. But he goes, hey, man, I was really thinking about that idea. I think we should do it. And I said, yeah, man, let's call everybody up. So we called everybody, and like Wally and I hopped on a plane and flew out to LA. We rented like just a little rehearsal place somewhere. And we got together, and just like, you used to do when you were a kid, you show up with your guitar and plug in and go, hey, let's play some Chuck Berry songs. Let's play some Bo Diddley. Hey, you got any ideas? And it literally, like, we just put like a phone on the floor and just recorded it.
That's awesome.
And then did it again a couple more times. Next thing you know, we had all these songs. Yeah, it was literally organic.
And poor old Ringo's on playing going, hey guys, what about me, man?
Yeah, but we got Ringo to play on our new album. So how do you like that?
That's
There's
badass.
the segue.
I had a question about Clem. Can he still play Dreamin' all the way through?
Oh my God. It's crazy about Clem. Like we could be just rehearsing, right? We just got to run through some songs. Clem has to bring a bag of clothing. Because there's no such thing of Clem laying back. It could just be like just running through beginnings and endings of songs. He'll be a sweating, pouring mess after. He never holds back.
That's awesome.
No. He's literally probably one of the best drummers in the world. Literally. I mean, he can do stuff that I've seen him do, and I'm going, holy crap, what the heck are you doing, you savage?
I think my arms would fall off. I was watching an old SNL that Blondie was on, and they did Dreamin', and I was just like, oh my! I mean, I knew it sounded great on the record, but watching him just go through those rolls for that long of a song without arms falling off, I don't know how the hell he did it.
Incredible. Well, that is, I mean, you're naming off people that like I'm smiling like a crazy monkey over here because I love that stuff, and I love the team that you put together, and it's everybody needs to go check that out. Toot Sweet, and when this thing kicks over and everybody gets out to playing again, hopefully we'll be able to catch you getting around. Tony, why don't we introduce him as the master of a few other things? Okay. How about the store?
Let's talk about the store. So, how did that all come about? What's the history of the store? What do you like to sell there?
Well, I've been in retail in the music industry for over 30 something years, and I managed a really big shop here in Rochester for years and years, 20 something years. And, I just decided that, I think it was soon after Beatles Gear came out, the book, I decided the way they were running the business wasn't really it was just kind of weird. So I decided to split, and I figured I'd just start my own shop, and I'm pretty well connected with all the different manufacturers. I had a great rapport with them, and I just picked up the phone and started calling, Martin and Fender, and, Andy, you're going to have your own shop. Yeah, you're a dealer. No problem. It was like, wow. Okay, cool. And it literally just kind of happened really fast. So, I didn't want to be a big store. I don't want to be like one of these places where the store owns you and then like you can't have any freedom to, go out and make records and tour and stuff. I figured I don't have to be the big guy. I just got to like have really cool stuff, touring with the Chesterfield Kings. And then, I was able to go into music stores all over the world, and I could just pop my head in any music store and within like 20 seconds know whether the rest of the guys in the band should come in. So, the bus or the van would stop in front of some music store. I go, guys, let me just run in there real quick. You pop your head in. No, we don't want to go in there. It's fine. And then there's other stores you walk in. No, we got to go in here. We got to spend some time here. And I wanted to have that kind of a shop where it was like you walk in, it doesn't have to be ginormous. Like you go to London, you go on Denmark Street, and there's, those tiny little shops. It's the whole street. It's filled with shops, but there's certain shops you walk in, you go, okay, this is all the real stuff. Okay. You go to a shop next door and it's like, nah. This is all garb. This is all stupid stuff. You know which ones right away if you're into it, and that's kind of the vibe that I have. But it's also not like a hard sell. To go to these chain stores that like, what do you want to buy? It's uncomfortable. You feel awkward and stuff. So, I remember the first thing I did, I bought this big, beautiful Italian leather couch and put it right in the center. And my accountant came in. He's like, you can't do this. I go, what do you mean I can't do that? It's a piece of fixture for the store. It's a tax write-off. And he goes, no. every square foot is supposed to have this much product for, there's like an equation for like, square footage to like how much stuff you're supposed to show. And I go, I don't care about that. I want guys to come in and relax and like, hang out. It's supposed to be fun. And it's turned into this crazy thing. Like before COVID, the whole pandemic and everything, Saturdays would be, people would come in and they just laugh. They said, man, this is like Andy and Mayberry, man. It's like going to Floyd the Barber shop. Like nobody's buying anything, but everybody's hanging out, and, having a cocktail and, laughing about goofy stuff. And, we got this big, huge screen and we show like, all kinds of movies and like, wacky stuff, Three Stooges. You don't even have to have the sound on, but it's just, what's going on, cool music blasting and stuff, it's more of a vibe than it is one of those places where they just try to hard sell you.
Yeah.
And then it's fun, then you could go there and it's just like a fun experience for me too,
Well,
and have to go there.
On top of that, you actually have some incredible gear there. You're not rolling up on whatever the last year's models that are being pushed are. I mean, you've got instruments with deep character in there. Well,
the key is, myself being a guitar geek myself, I look at it like it's got to be something that I'm going to dig, and I'm pretty deep into it. So I figured if I like it, other dudes out there will dig it too. So, be it I go to the trade show or work with different companies that we work with, I'm always digging for something that's just unique and kind of really cool that other people don't have, for instance. And it, kind of gives us our own little niche.
That's awesome. And where can people find this store?
We're in Rochester, New York. So it's upstate New York, and it's called Andy Babiuk's Fab Gear. Imagine that.
Awesome. And you have a reverb store too, right?
Yeah. Well, our web guys do, every different outlet that you have. They got us there everywhere.
Nice.
You just type in Fab Gear on the internet, you'll find us.
Perfect. Okay. So now I think the thing that, certainly Tony, he's been yapping about these books for actually a long time. So, I mean, you have a real, megaphone over here in Tony. And, so it maybe set up these books here, Tony, because this stuff's it really truly is incredible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first book that I got was the first edition of Beatles gear. I'm a big Beatles head.
Yep.
I think, as we've discussed on the show before, and I was just amazed at the research, the depth of the information that was in there, the photography.
These are not the coffee table books you're going to get from Barnes and Noble, ladies and gentlemen. This is truly encyclopedic knowledge, photos, history, and lore of two of the greatest bands of all time.
Yeah.
Extensive.
Yes, it's a deep dive, and maybe it's too deep for the casual reader, but anybody that likes,
anybody that's listening to this show, it's not too deep.
Yeah, but their wives.
My mom,
not.
Yes.
But it's just I mean, that hooked me. And I was just amazed. I learned a lot of things that I didn't know.
And that first book, the first edition that you have, is literally half the size of the new edition.
Yeah, I mean, so there is the original edition, and then now there is the ultimate edition, which of course is. Once I started paging through it, I said, "Oh my God, there is more information in here." Even if
that's how I wanted the book to be initially. Yeah. And first time author, you don't have a lot of leverage. And so a British firm did it, and Tony Bacon was the editor, and he called me up and he goes, but you're taking out half the book, man. This took me forever to figure all this stuff out. And they said, in a very British voice, Andy, would you like to sell 1,000 books or 10,000 books? And I go, okay, I got it. Do what you got to do.
So, but between that, I think was it the Bigsby book, your second book?
Yes. So, Fred Gretsch hired me to do that.
That is, I mean, again, another book that I got that I learned more. I mean, I was familiar with a lot, obviously the Bigsby tremolos and some of his guitars, but that is a deep dive into, his motorcycle racing, his initial lap steels and going into guitars and things like that.
Now, Tony and Andy, I know that anybody listening to the show, I can almost guarantee they know what a Bigsby vibrato is. But Andy, maybe you can kind of share a little bit about like why we should care about Paul Bigsby.
Well, the key about Paul Bigsby, when I wrote that book and it came out, I got a lot of people giving me a lot of crap. You don't know what you're talking about. Leo Fender did it all. Les Paul invented the electric solid body. I was like, well, actually, they didn't. Paul Bigsby did it.
Mm-hmm.
He invented the solid body, modern electric solid body guitar as we know it today. And he did it in the 40s. And it was well before Leo Fender. Leo Fender didn't know anything about guitars. He was a radio guy. Okay. So everybody who says Leo Fender, he didn't do anything. He copied a Bigsby, period. I write it in the book. It's a fact. I'm not making the story up. I'm just reporting it. That's all I did. Les Paul, I interviewed Les Paul about 15 times for that book. He was a night owl. You had to call him after midnight and stuff. He was a great guy, and I knew Les really well. But, the problem about interviewing Les is you had to watch out because though he invented a lot of cool stuff, Les also invented water, the sun, air. You know what I mean? So the first thing I said, Les, I'm doing this book on Paul Bigsby. Yes, I invented the Bigsby vibrato. No, you didn't, Les. It's tough. There's a very hard interview to do. But no, the thing, Paul Bigsby is known, as you guys pointed out, for his vibrato, which is excellent unit, and everybody knows him for that. But it's really the guitars and also the pedal steel. Gibson dabbled with it with the harp guitar, but he actually refined it. And it's really cool because the book shows, he was a pattern maker. He knew how to pour aluminum into a sand cast. It's an old thing that nobody does anymore. I mean, he actually used to cut, a pattern maker would take a blueprint and take parawood and actually cut it precisely into the part, and then take a sand cast and push the part into the sand and pour aluminum into it. Nobody does that. He used to do it in his backyard. It's a craft that he used to do. That's how he did all the parts for the guitars. He made his own parts. And, even like I said, with the pedal steel, he was doing motorcycles, making Crocker motorcycles with Paul, and he was so into doing stuff. He actually used the brake system for that, for the motorcycle to be the pulls for the pedal steel. I mean, and those pedal steels are worth a fortune now. His pickups go for a lot. Those guitars, you can't even touch them. I mean, they're like 40 grand or more. I mean, they're so beautiful. And I've played a lot of very expensive, beautiful, rare guitars in my day, Gibsons, Fenders, all kinds of stuff. Paul Bigsby's guitars, the Billy Bird guitar, it's probably one of the finest guitars I've ever played in my lifetime. It's the craftsmanship and what he knew how to do, because of the tolerances he could do, because of being, a master pattern maker. He used to put the frets in the right place so the guitar was in tune. So he knew his craft. So he's an unsung hero. And once people read the book and they actually get the story, if you're a guitar geek as we all are, and you really read it, it's like, wow, this guy really was the guy. It wasn't Leo Fender. The funny thing is, a lot of people don't know that Leo Fender, Paul Bigsby, and Les Paul were drinking buddies. They used to hang out in Les Paul's backyard by the grill. Les told me the stories and get drunk and talk shop and stuff. Huh. It's fascinating.
Can you imagine? I mean, I wonder if there's a picture of that somewhere.
I looked. There aren't.
Let's spot them all.
Yeah. Who's that guy who turned away from the camera all the time? Interesting. Well, yeah, that's so there's the Paul Bigsby book. And so, Tony is a great fan of the Beatles, and then you have this other really amazing book. And I don't know why, but I'm a little bit more fascinated with the Stones one, just not having read either one, but just there's a little bit more, I think, dark lore around that band.
It's a 50-year history. The Beatles is a 10-year history.
Yeah.
At the time that that I concluded the Rolling Stones gear book, it was 50 years. I'm hanging out on tour with them and stuff. It was their 50th anniversary tour that they were doing. And so it's pretty amazing, a band that had multiple guitar players, Brian Jones with all the different types of instrumentation. I was very fortunate to be able to work, on the Beatles book directly with, the Beatles, Yoko Ono, and then on the Stones thing, worked directly with the Stones. Bill Wyman was at his house in London, and Keith Richards, he'll let me go through all his guitars, and we photographed everything. I mean,
Jeez.
They were really wonderful. And, the thing that I was trying to impress to them when I was doing the books, the research for it, I said, look, this is not supposed to be some sort of cheap knockoff book that you see at these bookstores and, they sell them at Christmas time. Mm-hmm. This is a historical document. Your music's going to last forever. Okay. It's going to be in some format. It's digital, it's streaming or whatever, years from now, it'll be some other wacky format that they invent. Right. But some kid 100 years from now is going to want to go, man, how do they do this sound? How do they do it? And I said, this has to be documented. It's a historical record. It has to be done. And that's why I got the cooperation from both the Beatles and the Stones to do those books. And I'm pretty proud of it. They turn out to be cool. And I think, years from now, they could be used as cool documents to figure out how it was done.
I think that you touched on it really briefly there. I mean, really, I'm not trying to overhype this at all, but I mean, looking at that Rolling Stones gear book, it is, if the Rolling Stones had their own Smithsonian wing, this is what that book is.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy, and I think it wasn't this past tour that they did, but the tour before, they were in Buffalo. So they invited me to come. They wanted some books brought to them. The book had just come out, and they were at the time, they were just thinking about doing that museum thing. And it was so weird. We're hanging out backstage and they're like, put me on the spot. Okay, so can you write down the top 20 guitars that we should put in the museum? I'm like, could I use my book as reference? First of all, you're like kind of a little sideswiped by that. And I mean, you can't remember everything, You're like, yeah, well, this one, it's kind of really cool, but I think they also realized that it's important. Hence, they did the museum thing. It is really cool.
That was a touring museum, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, and it's still out there. It's the COVID thing put a little damper on it, but that's supposed to just continue to tour the world. But in a weird way, I kind of like to think that myself going at them so aggressively, saying, "Look, man, this is really important. This has to be documented." That they probably thought, "Wow, I guess it's like history thing's kind of important." Because when you're in a band, you never really stop and think that, what you're doing is historical. People say, hey man, they'll say, what did Elliot use on this song on the Empty Hearts record? We just cut it a year and a half ago. I don't remember. And I should, I'm supposed to know all these things. And when you're in the moment, you don't remember, but when you brought back to it, so I think this working with the Stones and, of course with the Beatles too, it's a similar kind of thing.
I think one of the things that really struck me, just kind of, thumbing through, I admittedly have not been able to go through it cover to cover, but I will definitely be doing that. But just thumbing through it, as Tony brought him in, I was struck by how well you find the balance of truly fantastic detailed photos of gear, which is the thing that we love. That's why we're listening to this show right now. And as well as the lore that is directly connected with it. And I think a lot of times if, we find ourselves in bookstores or whatever, and we see something that's like a Beatles book or a Stones book or a Who book or, whatever, AC/DC book, whatever your band is, that it isn't targeted at people like us, real gear enthusiasts. It is targeted at people who like the band, and that is the real big difference between that. It's like, if you want that, go over to Barnes and Noble on the the sale rack. But if you want a deep understanding, not only of the bands, the gear that's attached to them, but like it's actual information about the gear that you hear us talking about often, not just associated with those bands, but these are the special ones that are. So we cannot more highly recommend getting some of this. Put it on your Christmas list, for Pete's sakes, for goodness sakes.
Yeah. It's in doing the book, I was very careful not to make it a book of lists, because you could quickly do that. And there's been other copycat books that have done, Grateful Dead book, this kind of book, and then it's just a book of lists, and it's a hodgepodge. You can't. Each book is a story of the band from a musician's viewpoint.
Right.
That's how I wrote it. And I wanted it to be a fun read, so it's not just you get clobbered with, facts and details. You get the facts and details, but it's the story of the band as the band's progressing. So it's a fun read, so they tell me.
How about the write?
Yeah.
Was it a fun write and a fun research?
Laborious.
Yes.
6 years on one, 10 on the other.
Wow.
10 was the Stones.
Yeah. 50 years, man.
That's crazy.
That's incredible. But you have something that will outlive you, which is pretty amazing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, Andy, we are going to traverse over to our good friend Jared, who's sitting across from us, sweaty and messed up hair and just loving every minute of this wild and craziness. I don't know, whatever.
That was a perfect description.
This journey we call the Guitar Knobs podcast.
Yeah. I want to keep talking for ages about this stuff, but let's head on over to Jared. What do you got for us?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for that little game we like to call Would You Rather. And first I sing a little song, and it goes like this. Would you rather? This week's Would You Rather is, of course, to honor these books. You're at a book signing, and everybody's there.
Everybody?
Who's everybody?
Everybody involved in these books, and all the gear is there all at once.
All the bands and all the gear.
Everything.
All the stuff.
And you are the lucky winner. So you get to choose one piece of gear, and out of two pieces of gear that they're willing to give away. So would you rather have John Lennon's Rick, the 325?
Black.
Mm-hmm.
Or instead, would you rather have Keith Richards' 1972 Tele Custom that, it's got the big old wide range humbuckers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, here's the funny part about the story. I got to play both guitars.
Oh,
man. All right. So you really do have an informed answer.
Yeah, you do.
So this is not like a guess where I go, well, okay.
You already know which one you want.
Listen, as you guys know, a 3/4 scale guitar is a real bitch to play. Okay. So if you got big meatball fingers, you're like, okay. That Telly's got Cool from Hell on it, and it's just like, it's a Telly, it's Keith's Telly, and he had two of them. Oh, by the way, I had the receipt for the first one to be able to show them. They wanted to know which one the first one was because they lost track, so that was fun too. But I got to play both, and of the two guitars, though, as a player, I'd be more leaning towards the Telly because it would probably be a more useful tool. But as far as a piece to have, John Lennon's Rick.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we all love both bands. It's people always ask me, well, which band do you like better? Stop it. They're both great. They're both phenomenal. Both of those guitars are phenomenal guitars, but there's something about that Lennon thing, man. When I was a little kid and I saw Hard Day's Night, it flipped me out. I got to have that.
All right. Okay. Tony?
Yeah, I mean,
you're a huge Rickenbacker fan, so like, how easy is this for you?
I mean, yeah, to have a guitar. I mean, and I think as Andy said, as a player, the Telly all day long. But the Rick, come on.
John Lennon's Rick.
The original and the original guitar, of course, would be the late 50s model.
Yeah, we're not talking about reproductions here, people.
It's the real thing. And that was it was originally a blonde instrument.
No kidding.
Yep. And he had the guitar taken over to a
auto shop?
Now,
an auto shop.
Did he do that, or did
Todd? You're gonna have to read that Beatles gear book. I hear it's all in there, man.
it is all in there. It's all.
So I hear it's all in there. You got to put on your Christmas list, my friend.
It's already on it. I'm getting it. There's no doubt about it.
I only need another million guys like you, and we'll be all set.
Well, who knows? I think you'll see a jump in those book sales here.
But yeah, I have to go with the Rick. Come on.
Jared.
I'm 43. Well, almost 43, and my old man, he was a huge Beatles fan because when he was a kid and a teenager, that's when they came out. He was a teenager actually when they came out. He was born in 1951. Yeah, teenager. So he would listen to the radio and he'd have it down as quiet as he could, but his little brother still tattled on him that it was on at night, But I like that little story. But anyway, I'm not a big a Beatles fan as my dad was. And I'm more of I guess I don't know. This is really tough for me because I'm going to want to play the guitar. So I'm probably going to go with the 72 Telecaster Custom. That's what I'm going to do.
All right.
I'm just going to get it out of the way and say it, rip the Band-Aid off, although it's a very hard decision to make.
Yes, that is.
I'm going to the Telly.
What about you, Todd?
Well, it is a difficult decision, and not because of playability, because it's impossible to take away like the icons surrounding both of these things. I think if I'm being honest, I was more of I liked Paul's songs better than I did John's. Just me. Obviously, what the Beatles brought was it started almost everything, right?
Yeah,
but
it's unrivaled, man.
But the rock and roll aspect, the dark lore of rock and roll surrounding Keith is like I got to go with the Telly.
Oh, wow!
So got to even split.
So the old guys go with the Ricks, the young guys go with the Tellys.
Yeah,
and there's two of them.
Yeah, yep. So there we go. Well, that was a fun time. And if you want to learn more about these instruments that we just referenced, it is all in these books. We're going to just do a quick out ski here. We got to say we're going to thank some people, and then we're going to make sure everybody knows how to get all of the stuff that each of us are hawking. So Tony Baloney is going to set us up.
At this part of the show,
yes,
there's a special group of people we like to thank.
You bet.
There are executive producers. Now, you might be wondering, I know you're not because you know the story, but
I know each and every one of them.
One lucky listener out there is wondering how to become an executive producer. You're Santy Todd, oh boy. That's going to be your new name. Go over to patreon.com/the Guitar Knobs, and you can find out how you can become a patron of this podcast, a sponsor, if you will.
Yeah.
Special.
Couple levels you can participate in. Each level comes with a great prize thank you package, including things like t-shirts and barefoot buttons and keychains and stickers and all the good stuff. But if you become an executive producer, you get all the great stuff. But there's one more thing, Jared.
You get to have your name read on the thing.
Your name read on the thing. That's what I'm going to do right now. So a special tip of the hat, just a regular hat, to Tom Barazin, Martin Cliff, John Daly, Chris Carney, Darren Gregory, Doug Christ, Michael Van Zant, Ken Sayers, Brian Robison, Michael Senchuk, Stefan Lamb, Johnny Knowles, Anthony Lathrop, John Englund, Tyler Bray, Brad Partridge, Chris Heidel, John Esterly, Doug Gann, Justin Jones, Brett Alexander, James White, Matt Hart, Liam Martin, James Pennington, Richard Kendall, Ty Harmon, John Williams, Michael DeLucio, John Jackson, and Jason Roush.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you. But
like
Todd,
Yep.
Todd, there's another special group.
There is. We have to put in that special card, the black card, into that little slot in the elevator. It takes us to the Guitar Knobs penthouse.
These are our grand poobahs. It's an executive producer with an exclamation point.
Yes, a few of them.
Yes, several. And as part of their great thank you gifts, they get a special fez to wear. Mm-hmm. That, if memory serves right,
among several other things,
they are required to wear while listening to the podcast.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. So special thanks to these grand poobahs: Jonathan Jerusik, Corey Nigro, David Kaminga, Cody Lane, Cody Foster, Sean S. Tommy Manasco, Mark Garton, Adam Johnson, Steve Keys, Zach Melton, and Tim Novak.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes. You know what one of my favorite things to do during the week is that most people don't like? I love going to the post office. You know why?
Why?
Because I get to mail people things, rewards.
Thank you.
And I just sent one out to Montevideo, Uruguay.
Wow.
How cool is that? Somebody down there is digging our show.
Nice.
Thank you, Santiago. All right, Andy, we need to know a few things. Give us a rundown on how people can get all your stuff.
Which stuff are you talking about there, my friend?
Okay, so obviously, where's the best place to get your books?
Okay, so probably Amazon or at a Barnes and Noble. They have it. You could also get it from our website, andybabiuksfabgear.com. You just Google us or just type that in, and we could send you an autographed copy if you buy from the shop.
That's even better.
Yeah, and I suspect that you just get the straight juice from that, right? You're not there's no squeeze outside of that shop, I imagine.
No.
Perfect.
My shop.
All proceeds go directly to Andy.
Well, I mean, honestly, tiny itty bitty editorial is like, that's one of the issues I have with some of the stuff on Reverb is like, if you can get it right from the seller, the buyer, the maker, or not the buyer, but the maker, they reap the reward and give them the due, Okay, so and then how about your store is in Rochester?
Yeah, Rochester, New York. You could go to our website, Andy Babiuk's Fab Gear, or just search engine Fab Gear. You'll find us, and we got a lot of groovy stuff on there. And then the Empty Hearts, we got tons of new videos out. Our new album's on Wicked Cool Records, part of Orchard Sony, and that's out now. It just came out a couple months ago. It's called The Second Album. And you could stream it on all your favorite streaming places. Buy it on Amazon, CD and vinyl. And like I said, we got Ringo on it too. So for all you Beatle fans out there,
fantastic. Tony Baloney, where can people find your stuff?
Just head over to pickguardian.com. You can see the stuff that I have available for sale. I have some things listed there, but 99% of what I do is custom work. So just shoot me an email. Let me know what you need, what you want to use, what pickups you want to drop in. I do all the good stuff.
Yeah, you do. Yes, you do. I love looking no joke. I just absolutely love looking at my guitars, and your pickguards are truly a big reason.
They're gold.
Hey, Tony, I got to call you for some pickguards anyhow.
You know the number.
Yeah.
Look up my name.
Jared, how about yourself, buddy?
Yeah, if you need new pickups that look old to match your old guitar, I do aging and all that fun stuff. I'm the only guy that makes the T-top pickup with the right bobbin and all that good stuff. If you have rewinds or really old pickups that need restored, I do that, and I take a lot of pride in doing that the right way. So
that's a lot of what you feature on the YouTube show, right?
It is. Yeah, the rewind time. It's a very short time, but it's fun to see the before and after and what I do and my messy shop. You can just see the messy. And
it's great stuff, though. I've seen every episode. I think it's great.
Yeah. Got a couple in the can. So watch out for the next one. It's
you usually do when you show up here, and unfortunately, they leave the can.
But the next one's going to be a conversion where you take old wire off an original P90 and you put it on a humbucker bobbins instead.
Oh boy!
Yeah, so I have a few people that have me do that for them. Anyway, BrandonWanPickups.com.
Right on. Right on. You can shoot me an email, Todd at theguitarknobs.com. You can also DM me on Instagram, on our Instagram channel at Guitar Knobs. We would love to hear from you. We would love for you to send us your Would You Rathers, and we would love for you to support us on Patreon. Pretty please. Andy, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that we have more discussions in the future. Our door is always open to you. If you got any new stuff kicking around, you need to give us a holler so we can help make it, help get it to the right people. Okay.
All right, man. Thanks guys for having me on.
Thank you so much. Hey, everybody, have a fantastic guitar weekend. Subscribe. Yeah. All right. That was sexy. I've spent the better part of the day wiping the egg off my face. I've got it all nice and clean. I don't want any more. Yeah, it is. No, it is. How is your last name best pronounced?
Babiuk.
Babiuk.
I told you guys.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we'll take good care of you. It'll be a nice romantic waltz.
It'll be a dance.
With some stinky liquor breath. And Babiuk. We've got literally a coffee table full of coffee table books here. Andy Babiuk. And he's going to tell us... No, what? I did it. Damn it. Andy!
Yes.
He's left. He's gone.
Babiuk. Damn it. Now I'm for certain going to mess it up.
Yep.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.